Next, we are going to hear the words of Ayman Nour, who is unfortunately not with us at this time, but his speech will be read by a colleague of his. Ayman, of course, is well known to the audience. He is an Egyptian politician, a former member, of course, of the Egyptian parliament, founder and chairman of Al-Ghad party, and he was the first actually candidate to compete against President Hosni Mubarak in 2005, an attempt that he was rewarded for with many years in jail and unfortunately many physical ailments as a result of the torture that he underwent at the time, which required treatment outside Egypt in subsequent years. In November 2019, he also founded the Egyptian National Action Group, a group of Egyptian expats calling to overthrow the military rule in Egypt. His word will be read by Dr. Samia Harris, a well-known Egyptian-American activist in this area, a well-known educator. Beyond that, of course, in addition to being an educator, which is a worthy endeavor in and of itself, she also is a painter and a world traveler. She is a prominent activist for democracy in Egypt and has appeared on many networks throughout the Middle East and here in the United States. She is a founding member, for those of you local here in the Washington, D.C. area, she's a founding member of the Alliance of Egyptian Americans and also of the group Democracy for Egypt. Dr. Samia, please go ahead with your reading.
Marhaba, hello. Hello. It's really an honor to share the podium with such esteemed group. Dr. Mansif, you do us proud. Everybody else, thank you so much. So this is Dr. Ayman Nour's speech for the press conference in Washington, D.C. on December 7th, 2021. On behalf of myself and of the Liberal Ghad al-Thawra Party and the Egyptian National Alliance, I would like to thank the Arab Council for Democracy for accepting the Alliance as a main partner in the Conference for Democracy First in the Arab World, which was held with the participation of hundreds of Arab pro-democracy figures and entities from around the world on December 3rd, 2021, representing 16 Arab countries. I would like to thank Dr. Samia Harris, that would be me, who in her capacity as a member of the leadership of the party and the Egyptian National Alliance and an American-Egyptian activist for human rights, freedom, and democracy, for delivering this letter to you on my behalf. In the interest of time, I will focus on remarks on 5 questions connected to the Egyptian issue, to be addressed via the press conference to the Democracy Summit, which will convene a few hours from now with the participation of 109 Arab states and only one country, which is Iraq. The first address to the organizers of the summit on the 9th and 10th of December. While excluding Arab regimes that suppresses their people from attending this conference may sound reasonable, the absence of voices of this region from the summit, however, seems questionable. These people are concerned more than others with the issue of democracy, as they are paying a very high price in the course of the current struggle for democracy. For there are no reforms without reformists, and no democracy without Democrats. When will a serious and civilized dialogue begin with the reformists to reach a common understanding of ways to achieve democracy? That is a question to Mr. Biden and the people who are putting the summit together. Question number 2. Having the leaders of the countries invited to the summit of the 9th and 10th of December, have they heard the news from the leaked French documents published a few days ago about French-Egyptian cooperation under pretext of combating terrorism and the deviation from the declared goals, killing in 4 years thousands of unarmed Egyptian civilians, thousands, in the west of Egypt, with, unfortunately, US and French-made planes and weapons? When are we going to understand that our common security interest will not be achieved through investing in arms sales, but only through investing in our common humanity? This is the only straightforward way to avoid sowing hatred, violence, and terrorism in our countries. Third question: how much longer will the policies of blank checks, trading principles for interest, buying silence and time with false claims of stability, regional rules, phony reforms, and revolving door-style human rights strategies persist while progress on the ground always equals zero? Absolutely nothing. Fourth question: what does the Democracy Summit on 9th and 5th and the 10th of December expect from 400 million Arabs? 400 million Arabs who are ignored if the summit's communique and the speeches of leaders attending the devoid and of explicit condemnation of what those millions are doing through, namely, unconstitutional military coup, guerrilla wars, killing and executions, detention of hundreds and of thousands of innocent people. Don't these victims in their grave or prisons have the right to see their cries resonate at the summit held under the banner of democracy? Fifth question: when I was detained for 5 years after competing with President Mubarak and coming second in the presidential race in 2005, the US President George Bush, the Jr., spoke about me in his speech at the Democracy Summit in Prague in 2007. Will Al-Ahram editor-in-chief Abdel Nasser Salama, who is currently detained for an opinion article he wrote, would he hear anyone mention his name at the summit? Will the young man Ahmed Badawi, who has been in detention for holding a banner, just for holding a banner, rejecting an extension of al-Sisi presidential term, would he hear his name at the summit? Will Dr. Mohammed Mohieddin, the representative of our party, and thousands of other detainees hear any of their names mentioned by the party leaders or the parliamentarians or President Biden in the summit? In conclusion, I would like to tell you an inspiring story dedicated to President Biden, who called for the summit on the occasion of completing his first year in office. The story is 102 years old, dating from when the first revolution in modern Egyptian history erupted in 1919. Egyptians chanted 2 names in the street. The first was the name of the revolutionary leader, Saad Zaghloul, and the second was that of the US President Woodrow Wilson, in appreciation of the principles he pledged to uphold his speech before Congress in January 1918. Later known as the 14 points, addressing the importance of freedom, the right of self-determination. Yet, unfortunately, a few months after chanting for Wilson, Egyptians took to the street, chanting against him. After he agreed to make Egypt as a British protect, President Wilson didn't listen to the Egyptian leaders, following the advice of then the young American diplomat, Allen Dulles, who later headed the CIA. He based his opinion on a memo by the British Foreign Secretary at that time, Arthur Balfour. Of course, we know Balfour, in which Balfour described the leaders of the Egyptian nation as being extremely nationalistic and agents of the Turkey and the Bolshevik. The actual story may have become history, but the shock of the people who once believed promises only to see them dissipate like a mirage will never be forgotten and still alive. This is signed by Dr. Ayman Nour, the former presidential candidate in Egypt and the head of Egyptian National Alliance and the head of the party. And it's presented by Dr. Samia Harris. And if any questions, contact samiaharris.com. Thank you so much.